it is crazy for me to put myself in a judgment seat and say, well, I would never do that. And I think that's the biggest misconception that people have that I hear all the time is people like to separate themselves from a decision someone else made. And I think we get really proud of ourselves. We get really confident that we would never do anything like that when we actually have no idea.
Welcome, Causey.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to Clemson and JUMPSTART.
Yeah. Wow, that's a long story. I'm Causey Williams, and I've grown up in Greenville, have a big family. I have 4 siblings, and they're all married, so a handful of little kids running around now. And then just grew up in a family that loved Jesus, and so I grew up in the church, and so ministry was always something that I've been passionate about, and Clemson was another thing I've been passionate about because my siblings all met their spouses at Clemson, aside from one of my sisters, and then my parents actually met at Clemson as well, and so we grew up that classic Clemson family, going to the games, doing all those things, saying "Go Tigers" when you were little, maybe sleeping on a Saturday night or Saturday through a game on the couch. But all of that was kind of where I grew up. And so Clemson was always kind of on the radar. And then as I got into high school, having to make those decisions into Clemson, I realized it's where I wanted to go, not because of just my family, but because it's what I wanted. And it felt like the Lord was being pretty clear that this was a good spot for me as well. And so, I've loved it being at Clemson. And then JUMPSTART was another thing. I grew up with JUMPSTART having partnered with my church all through, like, growing up. I had always heard of the name, but never really knew a ton about it. I knew it was prison ministry, which always kind of perked my ear because I love all things criminal justice, and I've always found that super interesting, but was never super close to it or involved with it. Knew my parents would go and serve dinner at prison or whatever, and so it wasn't really on my radar until coming to college and switching my major to criminal justice, and then through a handful of things, hearing about JUMPSTART and hearing about how someone had done an internship last summer, and then JUMPSTART showed up at a panel for one of my classes, and that felt like an easy, I have to go say something. I have to go. And so it felt like the Lord was pretty clear that I at least had to introduce myself, and then that's kind of it kind of happened. Yeah. Yeah.
So wait, why did you choose criminal justice? Tell me more. You switched your major, so.
I did. I went into college really super interested in criminal justice. Every other college I applied in criminal justice except Clemson, because I was like, I had it in my mind where, like, oh, criminal justice is what you do, like, in the movies. It's not like a realistic thing. I probably shouldn't, whatever. I should do something a little more like that is broader. And so I went in with a random major that was kind of workplace development, businessy kind of thing. And I didn't really enjoy it at all. And it was hard for me to see myself continuing to do that and not really think of, like, wanting a job out of it. And so my parents really did encourage me, like, okay, let's think about something you may enjoy. And so I kind of went through a bunch of options, and I went back to thinking about criminal justice and what that could look like for me and why I would want to do that. And I had a forensics class in high school where my teacher said, if anybody goes and does criminal justice, you need to do it. And I just had remembered that. And so I decided to kind of take her up on it. And I said, I'll just try it and see. And I absolutely love it. Just enjoy learning the content. And it's something I've been uniquely passionate about for a while.
So when we spoke last, you told me that, you're not doing law enforcement, but when you first hear criminal justice, people automatically think, you're a cop or, CSI.
Yeah.
But what has interested you about, like, the broader system of criminal justice?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've been interested by is rehabilitation and giving hope. I think that the correctional system is one thing that I have learned that I've been very specifically passionate about within the criminal justice system. I had a corrections class, which was the one y'all came and spoke at. And that was the one that like kind of perked my ears. I was like, oh, okay, this is what I care about. Hearing about incarceration and what that looks like in recidivism, all of those things is kind of my like angle of what I've realized I care about. But for a long time, before I even really started criminal justice, I always had a passion for unique, specific, like brokenness and like care situations. And so I always knew that certain things like that were things that I cared about. But and I think that comes alongside people that are incarcerated and the justice system. There's broken people all in it, and I think that's very evident.
You just said something. Unique brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
Dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's been the best way that I can think to describe it. At my church, we have a department called Care and Recovery, and that's where you handle situations that I would say are unique brokenness. So that's divorce care, any kind of specific grief or loss. And then I think that JUMPSTART participants can fall into that category with whatever maybe childhood things they went through, or just being incarcerated as its own natural challenge. And so there's a bunch that comes with that is a super broad spectrum. But I think we have this camp that's actually happening right now that is for kids who are partial to specific brokenness, whether they have a sibling with special needs that brings its own challenges into their family, whether it's a kid of divorce or a kid with a loss in their family. And so just trying to care for them, and caring for them is very unique. And it has to take a certain type of approach and love and patience and kindness. And it's very unique compared to the other ways that we would try to present the gospel to someone.
Right. So how would that, you're speaking with divorced kids or kids of siblings who have special needs or dealing with loss, but how do you think that you would deal, like your time at JUMPSTART has been pretty short, but you know a lot about dealing with unique brokenness, and what do you think differs between someone who's been in the criminal justice system or has maybe a sibling or a loved one in there, and how you deal with them and love them? Yeah,
I think there's always unique circumstances, and so it does take a unique hand entering conversations like that, but also realizing that like the same gospel is true for everyone. The blood that covered my sin is the blood that covered theirs, and being able to present that and remind them of that, because I think one thing that is very common among brokenness throughout people that are incarcerated is shame. And that is a big thing that people can't seem to get past, is they just can't forget about what they've done. And God's not necessarily asking them to forget. He's just asking them to trust him with all of that and believe that his blood is enough. And so I think that is a good reminder of nothing that you're going to say is going to surprise Jesus. And I think every situation is pretty unique when it comes to trying to enter into a conversation around sharing the gospel with someone who's gone through certain brokenness.
So you knew a lot about, you're doing this class at Clemson, but before your internship, like, what did you think reentry looked like?
Yeah, honestly, before my class, I had no idea. I really, before y'all came and spoke and before my professor had talked about recidivism, I just was like, oh, okay, they do their time and then you get out and you are great. And it's funny to look back on that now because that's just so not accurate. But I remember right around the time that y'all came to speak, he started talking about recidivism, which is the rate that people come back to prison after they were released. And just he painted this picture that was people come out of prison and they're maybe given $20 for a train to I don't know, maybe it was actually you guys who explained this, but $20 for a train to like get where they need to go, and then they don't have anything. They don't have someone to go to. Mm-hmm. They end up back on the street and they commit a crime to then care for themselves or survive, and then they're back in prison. Or something that Carrie has spoke on, like they choose to get back in prison because it's the best thing they have.
Right.
And I had no idea. I was completely lost on that idea until that was presented last fall.
So you started, I think it was your first day, was release day at JUMPSTART.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the most amount of people come to Restoration Village that day. So tell us from Causey's lens, mm-hmm. what that was like for you.
Oh, it was so fun. It was like, yeah, the first glimpse I really got to like see a lot of the participants and like meet them and spend time with them. And I think the coolest thing that I got to see was how everyone on staff dropped what they had that day, because this was the most important thing we had going on. And so no matter what meetings or things that were stressing you out or the text that you had to send, it was put to the side, because what we need to do is play cornhole with this person because they haven't played cornhole before or whatever it is. And so that was super cool. Just getting to meet all of them and feel their excitement and their eagerness to like restart and get a new chance at life.
Do you have a specific story from that day that maybe you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think
stood out to you.
I mean, talking to one of the new participants was really sweet. She had just come out and I got to like play cornhole with her and just hear about her life and just making jokes and things like that. That was a lot of fun. We also got to play fun card games, and it was just being silly and getting to connect and bring them into like what it is to just be relaxed and have a good time and be stress-free, you know?
Absolutely. I kind of want you to tell our audience from your perspective, you know, we can, you're in the criminal justice world, but what are some barriers that returning citizens face, or maybe some assumptions or stereotypes that this experience has challenged you to kind of break from?
Yeah. No, I think that when I think of challenges that people face coming out of prison, is that what you're asking? I think like all of them, like that's what I've noticed at least is, the job thing has been a big thing that I've noticed more recently. Mm-hmm. I know we've talked about that, the lack of job opportunity, and not just job opportunity in general, but then scale ability, if that's a word, just being able to grow in that job or become. I just heard of someone a couple of days ago who is not associated with JUMPSTART but came out of prison, and he has a job and he is not able to get a raise because he's at the top end for what they would hire for a felon. And that is just really hard because he can't provide for his family with what he's making now. And so just the lack of opportunities when it comes to job or getting approved for housing. I know we've talked about that. I think all that comes with trying to be a stable living citizen, you have significant setbacks from being incarcerated, as at least what I've seen through my classes and my time at JUMPSTART.
One thing that we kind of talked about when we were talking about, you know, jobs and stuff was more around the idea of like the psychology behind the behavior and decision making, and what's kind of stood out to you during your classes and spending time with the participants and your studies behind decision making and, you know, people in the criminal justice system.
Yeah. I think one of the first things that I remember from one of my first classes I took was talking about the different theories that people have as to why people like commit crimes pretty much. And some of them are like, it's in your genes and it's whatever, which is not actually necessarily scientifically proven, is at least from what I understand. But then there's like environment, and it relies on how you grew up and your parents and all these things. And I think what I have noticed the most is people that have grown up in a specific situation, or who have had a specific family, or have been in an environment. If I grew up that way, I have no idea what kind of decisions I would make.
Right.
I can't. It is crazy for me to put myself in a judgment seat and say, well, I would never do that. And I think that's the biggest misconception that people have, that I hear all the time, is people like to separate themselves from a decision someone else made, say, well, that's just crazy. That really and I'm like, well, if you were told that when you were 7, or if you had these parents, or you actually have no idea. And I think we get really proud of ourselves, and we get really confident that we would would never do anything like that, when we actually have no idea. I think that's one of the biggest things that I see, at least with people that are my age or that you talk to, who are not super educated in the system.
Yeah. And there's, the lack of opportunity, like you were saying, with the job piece. And that's
yes.
not only prior to incarceration, but post-incarceration.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that people forget how complicated that is. And then coming out of incarceration, how unwilling some people can be to like give someone a second chance. As if you were not put in that situation, you wouldn't have probably made a similar decision or been in the same, complicated circumstance.
So I'm going to ask you something. Since you're interning with JUMPSTART, and what our curriculum is on the inside program, and kind of what we believe creates successful reentry. Why do you think that some people successfully rebuild their lives and some people don't?
Yeah, I would say some of the difference is if they have hope, if they have Jesus, and they are able to depend on him. And I mean, when you're in such a dark spot, having the Lord is sometimes all you have. And so if you're re-energized and by him, then some of that is motivation to keep going and keep working and pursuing opportunities, even when there may not feel like there's no incentive, especially inside of prison. I was just talking to a participant about this yesterday, he was saying how there's not much incentive to keep growing and getting better and all those things. And all that he really had was knowing that he wanted to follow the Lord. So I think there's some of that. But then I think the other things is support in people, and people rallying around you, opportunities, being given resources and another actual chance. So like the way that JUMPSTART has employers that we work with to try to set you up well. You're going to interview, and you have to be eager and excited and work hard and be passionate about it. But also we're partnering with you, giving you resources and opportunities that maybe you wouldn't get if you weren't part of the program.
Have you seen a difference? The workforce is kind of saturated right now, but I was just talking to someone who said, I feel like I see the JUMPSTART participants, or people who've come out of incarceration, who are 10 times more eager to work and excited about work and willing to do things, the hard things. Have you seen that in our participants compared to ones who may have not ever been in prison or...
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I compare participants to the people that I go to college with, or anything like that, other 20-year-olds that I know, I think that's totally the case, is you have people that are eager and excited for another chance and an opportunity to grow and learn, just an eagerness to learn. Whereas I feel like the current culture, at least that I've been around, is very eager to do the least they can and have the most. and or have the most with the least they can do, So I think that is definitely a theme, and it's kind of refreshing to be around people who are like interested in working hard and who are servant-minded. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen or been in an environment with so many people that are interested in serving others as the participants that came in from out of prison 2 weeks ago. Yep. Genuinely. I mean, it is unbelievable. They're just so excited to get to do something for someone else.
So you talked a lot about working with the participants, you're interning. What does that look like for you? What are you excited about? What have you been doing so far or learning and at JUMPSTART?
Yeah, so my main thing is interviewing participants who've been there for a little while and getting their stories so that we can share them and so more people can hear about JUMPSTART and hear about the lives that have been changed through opportunities that JUMPSTART gives them. And I mean, that is one of the coolest things is you get to sit here and just hear about someone's experience and their childhood, and they're super vulnerable and willing to share about what led them to being incarcerated and then the way that God met them there. And they ultimately gave into the program and their life was changed. And so getting to hear that on a regular basis is nothing short of encouraging. And just Absolutely. It's really cool to see all the life change. So that's a lot of what I do, and then help with whatever else is around. I get to hang out with the participants a lot of the time who are coming in and out. So it's so fun.
So how many stories have you done so far?
I think we've done 7 interviews so far. And so in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. So out of your 7, you want to just share one that maybe stood out to you the most or meant a lot to you?
Sure. I think I feel like several, but I think my favorite one that was really sweet was the one I did yesterday. He was in prison for 35 years and didn't think that he would make parole, and did. And it was just hearing him explain step by step his thought process through all of that and the way that he was just good. He was good with what the Lord had for him, and he was so content. And so then he got to be completely shocked when the Lord gave him a shot. And I think that was really cool, hearing him talk about how he just fell apart so excited. And then even after that, contentment with if his parole was taken away, because there was a month or 2 process before he actually got released. And he was like, well, it's going to be okay. If it gets taken away, that's okay. And the Lord is going to do something. As long as he works in me, I'm good. Yep. And he was just so, everything he said, every answer that he had, he attached the gospel to it because that's his whole life. And the redemption that when someone has the Holy Spirit in them, it radiates off of them. It's so obvious and you can feel it. And that is super obvious with this participant.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Have you been to a community meal yet?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, you've been around the community, and you mentioned that about support and people. That's the other aspect of successful reentry and rebuilding. Why do you think that that's such an important part, especially in the JUMPSTART community, and being able to go to Restoration Village every day and kind of see how the participants are, and when they come to the center and hang out with you, and what difference that makes compared to someone just coming home and, maybe at their parents' house or wherever they are, and they don't really have a community around them.
Yeah, I mean, I think God created biblical community for a reason, and that's why we get to have friends, and that's why certain relationships, I think, were created for that. And I mean, Scripture talks about iron sharpening iron, and so we just get dull if we're on our own. And I really think that's obvious with with the participants is you eventually become who you're around. It's really super easy to morph into someone that you never thought you would be. And so getting to be around people who are equally as eager and interested, and even the people who've been around for a year in the program, getting to see the new people who are energized for the Lord and excited for all that. I think that is a big thing opposed to going home and kind of going back to the life you had. How easy is it going to be to like withstand all of the circumstances that are a huge reason as to why you were put in that position in the first place? You have to completely pull yourself out of that and turn and not, I mean, that's part of repentance and changing your life is turning away and running towards the Lord and away from the things that you had in your old life. And so putting yourself back into the things in your old life is not going to be easy to withstand the common things that kind of come at you.
So let's look ahead. Causey's done with interning. When do you finish your criminal justice degree?
May.
Okay, wow.
27.
So where do you hope that takes you?
Honestly, I don't really know. I am very good at planning my life out and saying, oh God, don't even worry, I've got it. And so I'm really trying not to do that. I'm trying to defer having to make a decision or really, what is it, like theorize of what my life would look like as much as I can, just to be intentional, to like let the Lord be super directional and all of that.
Yeah.
But I love two things. I love ministry, and I have a really big passion for unique brokenness, whether it is incarceration or anything else in that realm. So I just know that I care about those two things, whether it's just serving and being involved in those and working somewhere else, serving and being involved in one and then working in the other one. I don't know. But I'm really, really open to what the Lord could have. And I know that doesn't fully answer your question, but I don't really know, I guess is the answer. But I love having the opportunity at least to work with people that are incarcerated, and whether that's just getting to like extend time volunteering and being a part of JUMPSTART, or it could be working with a church, or it could be working with another nonprofit ministry, or doing something completely different. So I don't know.
I'm just curious, what gives you hope for the future of reentry or criminal justice work? Do you have any hope for the future in those two areas?
Yeah, I think I am hopeful that our society will continue to grow in their ability to have open minds. I think I am hopeful for people in the area to be interested in partnering with programs like JUMPSTART to help re-enter people into society and give them real opportunities. I am eager for people to, especially believers who like claim the name of Jesus, to fully understand that God is also in the business of restoration of people who've been incarcerated just as much as he is with you. And I think people forget that, or like to separate themselves from that and feel like they get to judge what God thinks is right. And that is my hope, is that more people will get to say, oh my gosh, I really hope they have an opportunity in this area, instead of being like, yeah, they're getting what they deserve. Like right. The fact that you hear that is unbelievable. And it's really sad. And I just pray that people's heart will break for some of the people in the system who are being, one, maybe treated misfairly, but also, or treated unfairly, but also people's heart will break for the brokenness that is just happening, and just be sad for them, and their heart would be soft instead of hardened. Yeah. If that makes sense.
There is a time for rehabilitation, but then there's the time for restoration, and I think it's amazing. I love that. If you could speak to every criminal justice student in the country, What would you tell them after your experience at JUMPSTART? And I know you're not done interning yet, but I'm just curious what you would, or maybe not even the criminal justice students, but just in general.
Yeah, I think I would want to say majority of us, we're missing it. We're totally off in the goal of what the justice system is doing. I think a lot of what I've learned in my classes is, society paints this picture of when I see a case, it is here's the bad guy and here's the good guy. And we're cheering that this is brought to justice. And our version of justice is so off and it's so wrong because we never have the full story and we get to have opinions on things we don't fully know about. And then these criminal justice students are coming in feeling even more of a right to have this thought or this opinion, and then they're going to come into the system and work off of these things they don't really know about. And so I think people are missing, they're trying to get people, it can feel, if I'm being fully honest, it can feel in my classes when I hear people talk who are wanting to go into specifically law, is they want to get bad people off the streets. They don't want to take broken people and give them a new hope, which I know is specific to being a believer, but also I would think aside from being a believer, you would want to take these broken people and help them get better and grow. And I think once they get into prison, what are you planning to do?
Right.
I think that they stop there, and I'm like, I think JUMPSTART focuses on okay, well, we'll pick up where you left off because you're leaving them in prison, not doing anything. Mm-hmm. And so I think if more people could understand the importance of what we do once they're in prison, and then outside of that, moving forward, whether they get out or not, I think a lot of people would have a lot better goal of the reason why they're in criminal justice.
I love that. That was amazing. Well, Causey, this has been great. Thank you for joining at the table, Voices of Restoration.
Of course.
This has been great.
I loved it. It's so fun. Thanks for having me.